You lie awake in the pitch black. You listen to the heavy breathing of the darkness just beyond the glow of the dying embers. The night is cold. The shadows are moving. What are you supposed to do now? You close your eyes. You try to force yourself into a solid 8 hours of unconsciousness. But your brain simply will not let you shut down completely. Why does your mind race the moment the sun goes down? For about 300,000 years, the night was not a time of silent and isolated rest. The darkness was alive. The darkness was loud. You are carrying an ancient survival mechanism in your biology right now. Your modern frustration with insomnia is actually a ghost from the Pleistocene epoch. What did your ancestors actually do when the sun vanished? You might imagine them retreating into dark caves, terrified and completely silent. You might picture them sleeping in a huddled mass until dawn, completely dead to the world around them. This is entirely wrong. The night was arguably the most complex and socially active part of ancient human life. How did your body survive the most vulnerable hours of the day? The landscape was vast and unforgiving. When the sun dropped below the horizon, the temperature plummeted. The wind changed direction. The smells of the savanna shifted. Your vision, which was your primary tool for survival during the day, became instantly useless. You were blind in a world built for creatures that could see in the dark. How did you cope with this sudden biological disadvantage? You adapted. You engineered your environment to give yourself an edge. Let us travel to a specific place to see the evidence of this ancient engineering. You are looking at Border Cave. It is an archaeological site perched on a rugged cliff in the Lebombo Mountains of South Africa. Here, researcher Lynn Wadley made a fascinating discovery about how you prepared for the night. You did not just lie down on the cold and hard dirt. You built beds. Wadley found fossilized grass bedding dating back over 200,000 years. These were not just comfortable mattresses thrown together haphazardly by tired hunters. They were highly engineered sleeping platforms. They were positioned specifically over thick layers of white ash. Why would you choose to sleep on top of burnt ash? The ash was a chemical barrier. It repelled ticks. It repelled mites. It deterred other crawling insects that sought out your body heat in the dark. Your nighttime routine was highly strategic and required deep environmental knowledge. You did not just gather random leaves. You actively managed your sleeping quarters with fire. You burned yesterday's bedding to create a toxic and desiccating layer for insects. You then laid fresh, broad-leaved grass like Panicum maximum on top of the ash. You even added camphor bush leaves to the mix. These leaves were known for their aromatic and bug-repelling properties. You were creating an ancient pesticide. Did you think making your bed was a modern chore? This process was constant. It was an essential part of your daily rhythm. The accumulation of ash in Border Cave shows that this was not a one-time event. It was a repeated, deliberate practice spanning thousands of years. You were manipulating chemistry to ensure a safe resting place. Even with a clean and elevated and insect-free bed, you could not simply shut off your brain. The environment was crawling with apex predators. These animals had evolved specifically to hunt in low-light conditions. Leopards hunt at night. Saber-toothed cats hunted at night. Giant short-faced hyenas roamed the darkness. How could you possibly surrender to sleep when you were quite literally the weakest animal on the menu? You had no natural armor. You had no sharp claws. Your teeth were practically useless for defense. You were slow compared to the great cats. When you were asleep, you were entirely defenseless. The answer lies in how your sleep cycle is wired at a fundamental neurological level. Evolutionary anthropologist David Sampson studies how human sleep differs drastically from other primates. He calls this the sentinel hypothesis. You do not sleep like a chimpanzee. A chimpanzee climbs high into a tree before sunset. It builds a complex woven nest out of sturdy branches. It sleeps deeply and undisturbed for many hours, completely safe from ground predators. You sleep on the ground. Sleeping on the ground is incredibly dangerous for a hairless and clawless biped. To survive the terrestrial night, your ancestors evolved a fragmented and overlapping pattern of rest. You did not sleep alone. You slept in a group. When you sleep in a group, Your brain cycles through deep sleep and light sleep at completely different times than the person sleeping next to you. Your circadian rhythms vary. Some of you are early birds. Some of you are night owls. This variation is not a personality quirk. It is a survival strategy. Someone is always in a light stage of sleep. Someone is always half awake. Someone is always listening to the brush crackle in the distance. Does this explain why you are such a light sleeper today? Samson tested this theory in a groundbreaking study. He outfitted the Hadza people with sophisticated sleep-tracking actigraphy watches. The Hadza are modern hunter-gatherers living in the Lake Eyasi region of Tanzania. They still live much like your ancient ancestors did. They sleep on the ground. They are exposed to the elements. They live alongside dangerous wildlife. The results of this study were absolutely staggering. Out of a continuous observation period of over 200 hours, across multiple nights and dozens of individuals, there were exactly 18 minutes where all members of the tribe were asleep at the exact same time. 18 minutes. The rest of the night, at least one person was awake, or in a very light, easily broken sleep. Your light sleeping habit is not a modern neurological disorder. It is a biological security system designed to keep your family alive. When a twig snaps in the forest, the person in light sleep wakes up immediately. They alert the others. They stoke the fire. They assess the threat. The group survives because sleep is distributed, not synchronized. So, what are you doing while you are awake in the middle of the night? You are tending the fire. The domestication of fire changed everything about the dark. It extended the day. It created a safe, illuminated zone of light in a terrifying landscape. Before fire, the night was a time of enforced silence and stillness. You had to hide. After fire, the night became a time of community. But fire did far more than just keep the lions at bay and cook your meat. What happens when you sit around a fire in the middle of the night? You talk. But you do not talk about the same things you discuss during the daylight hours. Your brain shifts into a different mode of operation. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent months recording and analyzing the day and night conversations of the Jew/Hoansi people. They are a San group living around their campfires in the Kalahari Desert. She found a dramatic and measurable shift in how your brain processes information and social dynamics when the sun goes down. Do you ever notice how deep and philosophical your late-night conversations get? During the day, conversations were strictly practical and economically focused. You talked about where to find food. You talked about the movement of animal herds. You talked about tool repair. You complained about the heat, the walking distance, or the interpersonal conflicts of the day. Day talk is survival talk. Day talk is tense. It is focused on the immediate environment and immediate needs. But night talk is entirely different. Wiesner found that over 80% of campfire conversations in the dark were focused on storytelling, myths, and the distant past. In the dark, your brain shifts away from immediate physical needs and logistical planning. You start building culture. You tell stories about people who are far away. You bind distant groups together through shared narrative. You discuss the rules of your society. You sing. You dance. You imagine the spirit world. The night is when your ancestors invented religion, complex social bonds, and human imagination. Are your late-night thoughts just an echo of this ancient campfire storytelling? The fire provides a focal point. It draws everyone's eyes inward, toward each other and away from the vast darkness. It creates a stage for the storyteller. The flickering light casts long shadows, bringing myths to life. The warmth relaxes your muscles. The shared experience builds empathy and cooperation. The survival of your species depended just as much on this social cohesion as it did on sharp spears. Your sleep was also fundamentally divided by the natural rhythms of light and dark. The concept of an unbroken, continuous 8-hour block of sleep is a modern industrial invention. It is entirely unnatural to your biology. Before the advent of artificial light, the night lasted a very long time, especially in the winter months. In northern latitudes, darkness could last for 14 hours or more. You did not sleep for 12 hours straight. Your body cannot sustain that much continuous unconsciousness. You experienced what scientists call biphasic sleep. Psychiatrist Thomas Ware proved this in a famous 1992 experiment. He took a group of modern people and deprived them of all artificial light for 14 hours every night. He was mimicking prehistoric winter conditions. For the first few days, the subjects slept heavily, catching up on years of modern sleep debt. But then, something incredible happened. Within a few weeks, their sleep patterns completely mutated. They stopped sleeping in one single block. Instead, their sleep naturally divided into two distinct halves. They would sleep for 4 hours. They would wake up for an hour or two in the middle of the night. And then they would sleep for another 4 hours until dawn. What did you do during that waking period in the dead of night? You stayed in bed. You talked quietly to your partner. You added wood to the fire. You listened to the sounds of the camp. You experienced a period of profound peacefulness. Ware found that during this midnight waking period, the subjects' brains were bathed in prolactin. Prolactin is a hormone associated with peace and relaxation. You interpreted your dreams. Your dreams felt incredibly vivid and meaningful during this specific window of the night. You made love. It was a peaceful, accepted, and biologically normal part of the human experience. Historian Roger Kirch spent decades researching this phenomenon. He found vast amounts of evidence for this divided sleep in historical records. He looked at medical texts, court records, diaries, and literature from before the Industrial Revolution. He found countless references to this natural rhythm. People referred to this time as the first sleep and the second sleep. The time between the first and second sleep was a time for prayer, for reflection, and for quiet socialization. It was not a time of panic. Why do you panic today when you wake up at 3 in the morning? You panic because you have been conditioned to believe it is wrong. Agriculture and the Industrial Revolution completely broke your ancient night. Factory schedules demanded maximum efficiency. They demanded that you compress all of your rest into one efficient, silent, unbroken block of time to maximize daylight productivity. The invention of the light bulb was the final blow. Electric lights pushed your bedtime back by hours. They destroyed your natural melatonin production by tricking your brain into thinking the sun was still up. Alarm clocks pulled your wake time forward. They violently interrupted your final, most crucial REM cycles. Your ancient biological rhythm was crushed by the relentless machinery of modern productivity. You were forced into a monophasic sleep pattern that goes against hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary programming. Your insomnia is not always a malfunction. It is often just your body trying to return to its natural state. Your brain still thinks you are sleeping on the dangerous savanna. It still expects someone to be keeping watch. It still anticipates the varying sleep cycles of your tribe. It still expects a quiet, peaceful period of wakefulness in the middle of the darkness to process thoughts, interpret dreams, and tend to the community. When you wake up at 2 in the morning, your body is doing exactly what it was brilliantly designed to do. You are checking the perimeter. You are waiting for the campfire stories. You are seeking the connection and the safety of the tribe. You are a prehistoric survivor living in a modern bedroom. You lie awake in the pitch black. You listen to the heavy breathing of the darkness just beyond the glow of your phone. The night is cold. The shadows are still moving. You lie awake in the pitch black, listening to the heavy breathing of the darkness just beyond the fire.